Welcome to the XJO Podcast. Here we explore journalism innovation, including the way academics are sharing their research in new ways that target a wider audience. This podcast showcases some of the researchers on the XJO team. I'm Saman Amatullah, and I'm an RA with XJO. And joining me now is Stuart Duncan, a PhD student in the Media and Design Innovation program at X University and a project manager for XJO. Thank you for being here, Stuart.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So the breadth of explanatory journalism is really vast. A lot of people define it in a lot of different ways. So what is your definition?
I think for me, in its simplest form, it's essentially taking complex topics and explaining them in a way that is accessible to everyday people. And so in the case of The Conversation, which is the website that this project examines, it takes complex scientific or social science or academic data generally and kind of reformats it in a way that is understandable by non-academics. I think if anyone has read journal articles before, they can sometimes be written in a language that can be very confusing, use terminology that is hard to understand. And I think in a way, explanatory journalism takes those complex topics and makes them more digestible. And so Conversation does that for academic work, but it's also been done by mainstream news organizations with complex political issues or economic issues as well. So I think in its basic form, it's taking complex things and making them kind of understandable to a wide amount of people.
Why do you think this work and the exploration of explanatory journalism in media and academia is so important?
Well, I mean, I'll probably mostly touch on academia because that is the world that I'm in. And I think it's really important from the perspective of people who do academic research to ensure that their research reaches an audience outside of academia. I think we really want to ensure that the work that we do has an impact on, larger society. And I think the way that we can do that is by really thinking about how we present our ideas, this concept of what is often termed in academia knowledge mobilization. And I think when we do that kind of knowledge mobilization efforts, we have to think of the ways that people engage with content in a, outside of academia. And so that's, for example, watching videos, reading blog posts, things like that. And when we take lessons from explanatory journalism, we can repackage the way that we share academic knowledge in a way that really gets out to more people, because that should really, at least in my mind, be the goal of academic work. It has to have, a relevance to society as a whole. And we can get that relevance by kind of, thinking about how we present it. And one of the nice things about The Conversation, the website that does this form of explanatory journalism, is that it tries to take lessons from journalism, journalism practitioners. And, I also work as a digital journalist. I work at the CBC, and one of the things that is always stressed to us is that we have to make sure that our, how we write things and how we present things like titles and how we choose imagery and things like that are understandable to a mainstream audience. And I think there's a lot that we can learn as academics by applying a kind of a journalism approach to how we share knowledge.
Tell me about what you're working on for the XJO project.
Well, I mean, I've done a lot of things for XJO because I've been around for a little bit with the project, but I'm currently looking, one of the projects I'm working on right now is we're looking at the social media discourse surrounding the renaming of X University. And so we're trying to see how people are kind of deliberating about the issue on social media platforms. So we were specifically looking at discourse on the Twitter social media platform and also a discourse on Reddit as well. So the X University has a subreddit on Reddit, and there has been a lot of discussion related to the renaming of the university to on that platform as well. And so what we're trying to do with that project is kind of compare the two social media platforms. And so seeing how online deliberation differs on Twitter compared to the kind of student-based discussions that are having on Reddit. So that's part of what we're trying to do, make a platform kind of distinction. but we're also using the kind of the renaming issue as kind of a case study to develop a method of automated online deliberation analysis. So one of the challenges of doing any form of social media analysis is the pure volume of data. And so obviously there are a lot of tweets, there are a lot of Reddit posts, and so it is hard to do manual content analysis of that type of content because of that sheer volume. And so what we're trying to do is figure out a way to do a automated method to kind of measure the quality of that deliberation so that we can, do that analysis at scale, with the eventual goal of trying to apply this towards forms of explanatory journalism discourse as well.
What experiences do you bring to the project that will allow for more insight about explanatory journalism?
For me, I think I did my master's at X University before doing my PhD, and I really found that there was a steep learning curve coming back into academia. I had been I think it was 17 years since I had done my undergrad, and I had been working, as I mentioned, in digital journalism in much of the time in between there. And so I've always really struggled a little bit with the language and vernacular. I mean, that's probably vernacular is an academic word, but the use of academic language and the way that academic knowledge is translated to other people. And so I think having a journalism background and working in professional practice before getting back into academia has given me a kind of an understanding of how to maybe more effectively get academic knowledge out to other people in a way that they understand. That's part of why I really like the fact that we are exploring explanatory journalism, because it's always been one of my frustrations with working, as a student, as a PhD student, and as a master's student, the density of reading of some of the readings that I have to do, which I always feel is unnecessary. Like I'm a big proponent of sharing academic knowledge in a way that is accessible. And I think because of my background in journalism and my background just outside of academia, I think for the project, I'm always really acutely aware of when we are kind of sharing information or academic knowledge in a way that isn't necessarily accessible.
And that was Stuart Duncan on the influences and nuances of the explanatory journalistic medium. To learn more about Stuart's work and the XJO project, visit our website at ryerson.ca/explanatory-journalism.